there, I'm Leanne.
And I'm Lucille.
Welcome to Love and Light, where we talk all things life with our foundation rooted in Jesus.
Just two friends sharing their thoughts, opinions, and experiences. Join us as we take this journey, exploring life together.
So today we will be speaking about how open are you about God in your daily conversations, focusing on work, family, and friends. So let's get into it. So Lucille, how open are you to speaking about God with your work colleagues, your work friends, kind of thing?
I think I'm a lot more open now, but not as open as I'd like to be. So it's kind of still a journey for me, because there's moments where I know that in conversations where, just random conversations, it will be about God, and then I still have, it's almost like a this.
Yeah, like you don't want to overstep.
Yes,
because
exactly.
You're not sure where they at.
Exactly,
kind of
but
thing.
it's also kind of like, like a meerkat, it kind of has like a fight or fright. So that kind of like, I don't want to like engage because how do I engage? But then also I should engage because I can engage.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of there, but that's where I'm at.
And do you think it's like I don't know, because like for me, with my colleagues, as an example, majority of us are Christian on the floor.
Okay.
So having those random things of like, God did this week has become easier.
Okay.
But where I've been in companies where it's been like different religions,
Yes.
it was hard, like you say, because you don't want people to feel like you're overstepping or that you're pushing God on them and you.
Yes.
So I think in those environments, I was a little bit held back. But I also think I've reached that age where I'm like, I don't actually care anymore.
Yeah.
Like, this is me.
Yes.
This is who I am. And God is
Yes.
my life. So I'm going to share it with you, kind of thing.
It's kind of, so what you were speaking about, before, where you in an environment where there's obviously a whole lot of different religions. I think for me, it's also, because I'm learning, I don't want to get into it with somebody of another religion, because I found that a lot of the time, as a Christian, you're constantly having to defend that you're a Christian, because a lot of people have this idea that, okay, but why must I now believe? But why Jesus? And I got into a conversation with one of my old work colleagues, student, teacher, who's no longer teaching anymore at the school, so she's Muslim. And we kind of got into it where it was a thing about, okay, but how do you know that the Bible is the Bible?
They love that question. Like,
But then,
anybody that's not Christian goes, how do you know that what you're believing is
exactly
true?
But then you just ask the same question, is like, okay, but then the Quran, I could argue the same thing about the Quran, because so you're telling me that the Quran has been the Quran from nobody,
exactly.
there was never a time that it was reprinted or
or somebody added, we don't know.
Yes.
So it's not a. And I also find that people love to ask that question, is how do you know what you're believing is true?
Yes.
But then that goes for all religions. How do anybody know that what we're believing is
100%.
true? But for us, that's what's true.
Yes.
Um,
And also, I'm not here. Look, we all want saving people. Great, wonderful. But I'm not an evangelist, and I don't think that it's my duty to convince you if I already can feel that you're already coming with the intention to argue.
I'm like,
you just looking for an argument. So I'm just like, meh, I'm fine. I'm not gonna get into it. Move on. No.
And I've also found, like at work, when I hear those conversations starting, I've gotten to the point where I actually rather close my door.
Yeah.
Because I'm so strong in my faith, I believe that when I hear people saying things, I just go, why do you need to judge somebody else on what they're doing? If that's their vibe, if that's what they believe in, then let them believe it. Like, I want you to see Christ by how I'm treating you, how I'm living.
Yes.
And at work, I just find people, they always get into that. And I'm just like, that's...
Yeah, I don't want to
it.
engage. I'm not
I
engaging.
think that's also, as comfortable as I am with sharing God at work, I don't. Because especially if I know you're not Christian, then I rather don't. It's not because I don't want to talk about God, but I just feel I don't want you to think I'm trying to convince you to convert to my religion. And I also don't want you to feel like I'm judging you. So I rather just let it go. But if it comes up naturally in a conversation, when I tell you, my week has been hard, but this week I prayed about it and this happened, then I will share that with you. But then it needs to come up like in a natural.
Yes. It mustn't feel like you're kind of forcing that onto somebody else, because then you just kind of feeding into the narrative like, oh, look, another Christian, you see, they just want to force Jesus down your throat. And then you're like, no. And
it's not.
If you listen to what I'm saying, I'm
actually just sharing.
Exactly. Or like you said, you'll be pinned as the person you're going to come across as you're judging the person, and you're like, but nothing about what I'm saying is judgmental. I'm not. And I can't also apologize for the way you take it. Like, that's your understanding of it. Yeah. So I find that, like you said, even though you are comfortable enough engaging at work in conversations like that. For me, I'd rather not, because it's almost always like, but again, now I must now defend, because the conversation constantly switches. Yes. There's always a turning point in a conversation. And then I must always find a way to not only just defend myself, but my relationship with Jesus, or how I feel, and my spiritual journey. And then I'm like, but is it necessary for me to continuously be
on the defense?
Yeah,
the time.
I always feel like I have to be on the defense all the time. But I mean, it's also, you can argue both sides to this, because there are some people, even in the workspace, where they're also believers, and then those conversations it's way more easier than having a conversation with somebody that's not a believer, or that just is looking for a reason to just not take it away as genuine as what you want it to be. It's kind of just like a no.
Yeah, and I feel like Christians do have that at work, where they like, I want to be able to speak about it, but also, especially with where the world is going today, with all these, we're not going to get into like the gender and the this and the that.
Yes.
You don't want to have to always have that fight.
Yeah.
So it does make it easier not to be open about God at work. But is that also the right thing?
Exactly, because then, I don't know how you feel, but for me, I kind of feel like by me not wanting to engage because of constantly having to be on the defense, it kind of feels like, okay, but then what does that then say about me? Am I really as confident as I think I am? Or am I, do I kind of go back into this
fight? You hide it.
Let me just go. No, never mind. I'm not going to, So that's kind of also what I struggle with a lot, where it's like, I constantly have conversations with myself where I'm like, okay, but should I engage? I don't want to engage because I don't want to, have to defend myself and argue against what you're telling me. But then why not? Am I maybe not as comfortable? Am I maybe not as proud? Am I, you have all these things running through your head.
Yourself.
You literally second guess yourself. So I don't know. I think it's a learning, it's a learning journey. It's a curve,
I think
you learn.
You find your people.
Exactly.
And also I think you learn to navigate who can you.
Yes.
And how far should you go, and should you just let it go?
Yes.
I think that's kind of where it at. But then would it be easier then for you to discuss it with your family? Would talking about God with your family be easier?
For me, I think, look, personally, I find my family to be where I'm the most self-conscious about.
Okay.
Because, look, I've grown up Christian, but my spiritual journey now is so much deeper than what it was, because I understand now what it is. I understand, the relationship that I'm having with Jesus. I understand it to my core now. So I've shifted from being just a Christian. My mother said I must go to church. My Oma said I must go to church.
Exactly.
We have to go to church.
We did it because they told us.
Exactly. I'm Christian because I'm going to church, and that's what it is. Yeah. I'm actually a believer. I'm saved. So for me to be this person in front of my family,
it's still like
because they know me as, they have this version of me, and then this is this version of me, and I don't know how to
yet express,
to fully express it in front of, because then you'll find that they have this thing where it could be, they'll look at it as being disingenuous, where it's like, okay, but is this really you, or is this just a phase that you're going through? Then I'm
And
like,
family is judgmental like that. And I don't
Exactly.
think it's because they mean to be. It's just your family knows you the best.
Yeah.
So they go, okay, but this is generally how you
Yes.
are. You technically do A, B, and C. And now you're coming with this whole new vibe.
so what happened?
What
What
changed?
changed? Who changed? Like, is it because
Whose influence?
Exactly. So is it this, like, I mean, my husband, is it like,
Because now he's in the church, so does that mean now
so
you
now
have
you're
to
like,
be there?
okay, so it's the husband's influence.
Exactly.
So then I'm just like, no, I'd rather not. I'm not gonna get into it. But I'm learning again to come out of my shell. I have moments where I'll engage with my cousins over something simple, and she'll say something, and then I'm like, okay, yes, but now,
And then
this
you
is
can
what it
go,
is, Then I'm like,
Gives you
there we go, and then I'm like, but then I'll for some reason, I'll always catch myself. Then I'm like, oh,
This is
okay, maybe just like tone it down a little bit now. But I don't think I could do it with my aunts and them
okay.
as openly as I would like. But I'm getting there. I'm getting there little by little. My parents, I'm opening up
You're
to it.
opening.
They're opening up to it. They're understanding that, okay, this is who I am now.
This is your new journey.
This is my new journey. And I just have to go through this journey. And it's not a influence because of A, B, C, D, but it's genuinely my journey. So it's getting easier, but I think with family, because they know you and they've known you for all your life, basically,
For them, that's
yes,
like
they have this perception of you and who you are. And if you go out of anything that they think is you,
Yeah.
then it's red flags, and it's like,
But I think also like with family, we may also judge family like that.
yeah.
Because we assume they're gonna see us that way. And then we don't do it, or we
Yes.
don't say anything. Like with my family, we very Christian, and I don't like saying the words, but sometimes my family could have been the whole holier than thou kind of thing. Not because they meant to be, it was just how we kind of grew up.
Yes.
So it was church every Sunday, and if you don't go, this is, and everyone's gonna be, why weren't you?
Yes.
And also the way we interacted and did things at like family functions, and there was always this, we are Christians. That is. So if people went out a bit of it, I do feel my family got a bit judgmental in that. So being open about God with my family is completely easy, because
Okay.
that's been the norm.
Yes.
And if you didn't want to kind of be Christian, then they had that, but
The
once
stink
again,
eye.
and it wasn't because they like meant to be, or because it's just because that's how we grew up.
Yes.
That was what we knew. That's how we were. So for me, being fully Christian with them, great. But then if I step out in any way, I always feel like I'm then being judged or looked at a little bit differently. Oh, Leanne is doing this, but she doesn't usually do that. And then it's like, maybe because I want to try
Yeah,
something
like I'm
different.
entitled to try new things. I'm entitled to,
to be something.
Exactly. I can't. We, as human beings, I feel like, look, we're constantly evolving. We're constantly changing. Who I am now is not who I was 3 months ago. What I do, what I like, you grow. And I think as you grow, you have a better understanding, especially when it comes to, your spiritual journey and what you want to do and the person that you want to be. So naturally, you have to make changes. And those changes just happen naturally because it's your journey.
It's your journey.
You evolving into the next chapter or the next phase of your life. And if it means that you have to cut off certain things or you have to do new things
To
and
get
your
there,
interest now change from this to that, then that's okay. But I think with a lot of families, like I said, it might not be from a bad place, but they feel entitled to comment or to judge in a sense because they know you, so they feel like, but it's coming from a
good place.
Yeah,
I'm doing this to help you and advise
Exactly.
you. And sometimes it's like, no, please don't.
Yeah, like maybe just don't.
Like, don't say anything.
Your opinion, it's okay. You don't have to tell me about it. I don't need to know about it. So I get it, 100%. And what you said, where we are quick to judge our families or we make the decision for them, that happens a lot, especially with family, because now, and I do this a lot. I know I'm guilty of this because I have now moved from who I was back then to this new version of myself, I make the decision for them.
Yeah,
so
you
I'm
already
like,
assume you're gonna
I'm
think
like,
this.
no,
So what does it
I
matter?
already know it. That's how they're gonna do it, and no,
Yeah,
no.
so either way.
I know. I already know it's gonna come. So you know what? To make life
I'm
easier,
not gonna do it. No, I'm not gonna
I'll
say
just
it.
not engage. No, I'm just gonna keep going for the sake of peace because I know it's gonna come.
And I kind of do it in the opposite because I know how my family sees me. So then I'm like, yeah, but they're gonna judge me for doing this. So then I don't want to do it. And then half the time they go, but why? We would have been fine with it, or we don't care. Like, but in my mind, I've already said, if I now go do this, they're gonna think this of me. But once again, who said they're gonna do that? But I'm judging them off how we grew up, how we lived, how we did things,
Yes.
how involved they are in my lives, my life. And then you think, yeah, if I do it, this uncle or that aunt or that
You know
cousin
it's coming.
is gonna say, and then you do it, and then nobody says anything, and then you're like,
And then you stand there like, oh,
then you're actually
whoops.
wasting all that time putting so much emotion into
The what if.
the what if with your family.
Yes.
So like for me, where it's easy to talk about God, that I can do. I just can't do the other. I feel like I can't do other things with my family. But for you, it's the opposite.
Yes.
You feel like you can be the other side,
100%, yes.
but not your godly side in a sense with your family. And that's, I think, also hard to navigate for a person because you're already like, this is something new for me. This is where I'm going in
Yes,
life.
I mean,
and
because it's new for me, right? And every day is a learning experience. It's a beautiful experience. It's high, it's low, it's up, it's down. But for me now having to, navigate through all of this, then still have to put this mask and be
be like,
this person around people. It's very tiring. It can be very, very tiring and very draining because I also kind of feel like now I'm playing two pieces. Whereas how do I let go of that? And this is who I am. So like you were saying, how your family sees you and how they look at you and think of you. The same thing. I know that with me, they have this idea of who I am and this idea of what's happening and who I need to be. And for so long, I've always tried to stick to it until that was too much pressure.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pullback when I realized that, but now there's a lot of pressure on me to
be,
uphold your idea of what I need to be or how I need to be. So I think the way I also I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. It was almost like rebellious. So I was like, no, you think I'm going to do this? I'm going to do something else. I'm just going to do the opposite thing. But obviously I also have to learn how to communicate certain things with him, better. And with this journey that I'm on and with me, kind of realizing who I am and getting to know myself better, I'm learning how to be one version of myself and not have, I'm going to see my family today.
So I gotta change it
I
up
have
a
to
little bit.
I have to be this person. A little bit lesser who this is, but But even through those moments, I think each interaction I have with my family in any capacity, there's a little bit that changes.
Okay,
a little bit,
more
and
comfortable in.
exactly, and they they kind of have a chance to understand and say, okay, this is her mom, this is, and it's not
becoming her.
Yes,
and we're seeing it more, and it's
exactly.
not just
it's not just a
off.
They're
We're done.
all of a sudden one night over you did a 360
And now you're back to-
exactly. So it's a process.
So now if that's a process, what is it like sharing with friends? Because you're going, work, it's family is even harder, and then friends, oh my word, how do I now step into sharing my God with my friends?
Oh,
Because for me, growing up, I was always seen as holier than thou. Oh, this one is always just talking about church. This one is always this. So it was always like this clash of me being the holy girl, the Christian one, and that's how people saw me. And I was always seen as boring or judgmental. And it was like, but just because I am Christian doesn't automatically make me boring. And so that did make me like pull back from friends a lot.
Okay.
Because it was like, you don't want to be around me because you assume I'm going to judge you for whatever it is you're doing. Or that if I say something, you're going to go, there she's talking about God again. And so, yes, with friends, it was difficult because as much as I'm comfortable being myself, I always felt like the odd one out, or I felt judged. Because then I went, okay, but you actually going to assume I'm this holy person, but you don't even want to get to know me as the person. So I think those friendship relationships, and most of them I don't even have anymore. Because why must it be difficult? If you can't accept that this is me, then maybe I shouldn't actually be in those kind of friendships.
So for me, it was kind of the complete opposite. So I was always the wild party girl, like let's go, let's do this, you know, spontaneous, let's have an adventure. Life's too short, let's go.
We're doing it now.
You know? So transitioning from that to being saved, and that's when I kind of pulled away because I don't know how to be saved around my friends without sounding like I'm judging them. Because obviously, look, with me being saved and going through my journey, there's things that I no longer do, and there's things, and there's things that I don't want to be around and I don't want to see, and I can't condone it because that goes completely against now what I believe and where I'm at. So, and I don't know how to be around certain friends because how do I sit in that without judging
and feeling
uncomfortable or making them feel uncomfortable? And I know that there's kind of like a rift because I don't know yet how to
manage
I don't know how to navigate through it. I don't know. I'm learning and I'm trying, but it's always that way. It's like, but now you see, we're friends and I miss you.
Like I want to say it,
but you know, and if
you're gonna do that
together,
again,
you know, and if we are together and you say certain things, I'm gonna be like,
no,
girl,
like, please, why are you saying things
girl?
like that?
And if I call you out on it, are you then gonna turn around and say, oh, but is it because now you now such a church girl, Mrs. Church now, Mrs. Righteous than everyone else? So it's like, you know, and I never want to be in a situation where if that happens, you know, you get thrown in your face and say, okay, but you've done this before and you used to do this and you used to be this and I used to be that person, but I'm not anymore, and I'm not judging you for it. I'm just saying that this is where I'm at now. So I don't know. It's very dependent on the friendship group, but it's life. You just go through the motions with it.
And I think you eventually then find your people. That, not saying you're not going to see the others anymore, but you just see them in a different environment, in a different way, maybe at someone's birthday or a function or whatever. But then you have your people that you spend your weekends with, that you go out for dinners and in the week and things like that. And that's also okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having friends outside your religion.
Yes.
But it's also then learning how to, I don't want to say be okay with it, but to also, but you see, in those cases, then I want to share God, you know, and I'm like, but I've also had to learn maybe sharing God in that moment is not a good thing because that person's not going to hear me.
No.
They don't want to hear me.
So it's like they have like...
the blinkers there and on their eyes and their ears. And so you have to also learn the time and the place and when it's appropriate. And doing that with friends is a problem.
And I mean, look, it's not like you said, you find your people. But that doesn't mean that you have to completely let go of anyone else
you
and or anyone who's now no longer in that fits into that category. Because I mean, you still try and find different ways to meet with them. It could be on neutral ground, on your terms. And I think you teach people how you want to be treated and how you are now. Exactly. You set up boundaries, and through those boundaries, you learn to coexist again, to have a friendship.
And then you find.
Exactly. And that friendship, unfortunately, obviously the dynamic changes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that oh no,
I can't speak to you anymore
because we don't speak we don't speak as much anymore. That means we're beefing. I can't speak.
Yes.
No, we're enemies now. Like it's all love. It's always all love. It's just we have to find a new way to,
to make it work.
To make it work, basically. So, yeah, but I don't know. It's
Yeah, the God in friendships is hard. Yeah. God in those spaces is very hard. And it does, I think, make living in the world even harder, because now it's, I want to be friends with people. I want to have friends. I want to be able to interact, but I also don't want people to look at me and judge me just because.
Yes.
And I think people do, because I'm in the worship team and I do this and I'm in church on the weekend and I'm in the week. And I don't want people just to see that when they see me. Yes, I want them to see God, but I don't want them to not see me as a person as well.
Yes.
I want them to know that
that's good.
If you need to speak to me, I'm not now going to throw God in your face.
Like, you can't speak to me because I'm a Christian, so I can't even come to you and say, oh, this happened or this happened. And you're just going to be like, oh, God. No, I fully understand what you're saying.
I can have that conversation with you, and I can speak to you neutrally, and we can then still be, and I'm not going to judge you.
Yes,
just because I'm a Christian.
Exactly.
And I think people don't see that when they see Christians. They go, oh no, I can't talk to Lucille because
she's gonna judge me. I know it. She's just gonna judge me. Yes. But it's also like, so you learn with this new person that you have become or that you are becoming, you learn to be a nicer person. And that means, how you wanna love, and so that people can see, okay, Jesus through you. They need to be able to see Jesus's love through you. And that if you understand that you just automatically have this mindset shift where you're now loving on people that
it works.
It wasn't really easy before, but you have this love for people that you're not gonna judge the person. You're not gonna, you're not gonna make them feel bad about them. You're not gonna talk them down or anything like that. You're gonna be as best a friend to that person as they need. So whatever they need, whether it's comfort, whether it's consolation, whether it's anything,
that you can actually sit there
that
and
person, and you can give it to them wholeheartedly and still feel like, okay, I'm not judging them, they don't feel judged, but still having boundaries in place where they understand, okay, I can't cross this because of ABC, and you can't cross it because of ABCD. And I think that also just adds to the mutual respect between friends, because if you can respect my boundaries, then we're good to go. But if you can't respect my boundaries but expect me to continuously be in your life in a certain capacity, then we can no longer be friends, because then why are you not respecting
my side?
Why
I am.
Exactly. I mean, as life happens, as people grow up, things change. Your schedule changes, my schedule changes. We cannot have the same
way
routine,
of hanging and loving as we did.
100%. And if you can't understand that, then maybe we shouldn't be friends. And I'm okay. I've gotten to a point where I'm okay with having some friendships just fizzle out. And that's okay, because we are not in the same place. And you can't understand where I'm at, and you don't want to understand. So you just assume that, okay, no, that just means that we're fighting. And it's not even like that. But if that's your thing, then I'm okay. I have no hard feelings or feeling like, but I lost someone. No, if it's meant to not be, then that's fine.
And that's what God does. God shows you who the people you should be around.
Yes.
And it also makes it then easier to be around those people, because now you know, if this relationship is meant to be a friendship, and we meant to, be in each other's lives, it's not going to be that hard. I mean, every relationship is hard.
No, 100%.
But it's not going to be this constant fight with each other, because
not
that's how you want to live your life, and this is how I need to live my life. And so, yes, those 3 areas, of sharing God, they each come with their own. And I mean, for some people, they can't share God at all with their family ever. They can't share God with their friends at all, at work, because it's just not the place for them. And that is also hard for people. But that's why it's good to find your community, find your space, you know. So what would be like your advice or your tip or your final thought on sharing God in that, especially for somebody that's like you said, you're learning your journey, but somebody that's at the beginning of their journey and they're going?
I think, look, for me, I just think just be true to that. Like, just be comfortable, because you must never feel like you can't. And if you feel like you can't, then don't force yourself to make a point that, okay, but I can do it, you know. Just ride the wave, ride it out, stay in your journey. It's yours. I can't tell you, Leanne, listen, this is not right. If it's your journey, I can't comment on that, because it's not my place, it's not my journey, it's not my experiences to learn. So I just think that if you are even at the very beginning and obviously you don't know, you're trying to figure out how to navigate, where do you go from here, what's the next steps, just ride it out. Just keep praying, just keep having the conversations with God, because it's in those moments where you'll know, like he'll communicate with you. He'll
kind of poke you and go, now your child,
exactly,
say it.
Exactly. And you'll know when not to say anything, when there's a time to keep quiet and there's a time to speak. You'll know in those moments. And it's okay if you feel like everyone's on you, you know, that's okay. That's what happens when you decide that, okay, I'm ready for it. This is my life. Exactly. It's gonna happen that people are gonna look at you like,
and
you know, side eye, have a, you know, but it's okay. It's okay. You're not alone in those. You just have to find your community, and
it does. And it is going to be hard, especially for somebody starting out the journey, because you are going to feel judged and you are going to feel like people are looking at you and constantly, are you doing this? Why are you doing this?
Yes.
But like you said, don't stop. Just keep going. Keep finding where you fit in this journey, what feels comfortable for you. And I mean, I'm not saying go preach to somebody.
Yes.
You don't have to do that. You know, it can just be a small thing where you're having a conversation with someone and you can just say, you know, God did this for me this week. That's not you preaching. That's not you pushing God. That's just you saying, this happened to me.
That's
and
just
this
sharing,
is how I dealt with it.
Yeah, that's just sharing something.
And that's kind of like an easy way in, because you're sharing a story. So look at it as sharing a story. But don't for yourself make it feel like I must share.
Yes.
Because you don't want yourself to be forced.
Yes.
You know? And I think just take it, like you said, one day at a time. Allow God to come up naturally.
Yes.
And you'll eventually find such a rhythm that you start sharing and you start saying and then it's like, wow, when did I become that person?
And it's also okay. It's also okay for if you don't know what to share or how to share. If you ever find yourself in a position where you're around, you know, your community, you found your people, but everyone is miles ahead of you, and now you're there like, I don't know how to pray. Oh, I don't know what to say if I pray. I don't know what I'm saying. Like Leanne has amazing stories and experiences and all these things, and I have nothing. It's okay.
Yeah, it's cool.
Fine. Don't feel like you have to have an experience or you have to know what to say exactly to share for you to be doing the right thing, because it's not about that. It's really okay.
No, I totally agree. But yeah, this was cool.
Yes, it was fun.
You know, learning how we've each, navigated the
100%.
the sharing Jesus in our different three. And I think because those are three major points
100%.
where you every day.
Yes.
So yeah, that was cool. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Love and Light. If you enjoyed it and you're watching it on YouTube, please leave us a comment. We'd love to know what you thought about it.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Follow us on our social media. Our handle is Love and Light Pod. Thank you. Until next week, have a blessed week.